panel discussion. So my name is Necoverse, I'm from VTT, and I will be your moderator for this panel discussion. And on this panel we will discuss the user experience that we have in the Necoverse and reflecting on the things we have heard today in the earlier talks. So first, maybe I would like to introduce our panelists. So if we start from here, so we have here Aleksi Kiviniemen, CEO and owner of Necoverse. And Necoverse specializes in crafting custom-made fixed furniture and structures for ships and challenging environments. And then we have Aurora Pirma, she's from Linksoft. And Linksoft is a language technology and translation solution provider. And then we have Marjo Kekkonen, and she's an architect from Helsinki. Welcome, Marjo. And then we have Tuomas Suominen, we already met Tuomas, he's from Voyage. So welcome, and let's start the discussion today. So we have heard various experts already this morning, and to start with the discussion, it would be really interesting to hear our panelists' key takeaways from these seminar presentations and how they relate to this metaverse user experience. So maybe, Aurora, maybe you could start with what is your key takeaway from this morning's presentations?
Well, as a language technology and translation company, we at Linksoft, I take a look into or interest in the aspects more beyond the visual, because we have this environment where we can also utilize on automating and optimizing the tasks that are related to language. So I was intrigued on the first presentation, what kind of summarization and language data usage we could use in the inspections.
Thank you. What about Tuomas? You were one of the speakers, but what maybe from other presentations, what did you learn today?
Well, just thinking about kind of many times when we're introducing new technology and all that, I'm more of a money man than a technology man, so I'm kind of thinking about the cost benefit many times. So I would kind of like to see how we discussed last night, for example, with Martin, so what everything costs. Like this is like 20K, this is 50K, this is 100K, and then when we are piloting this stuff, we are also thinking about how to scale this, how this can be kind of in the long run. For example, a new technology we use, can it be used in elevators or not? Will the actual end customer buy that? So that's something I'm always kind of thinking about. But for your point, for the translation, it's really important because when we are planning a remote operation, we need that kind of technology there so that I can speak Finnish and they can speak Chinese. So that's something I would invest in.
Definitely, that's a really good point. What about Aleksi? What's your key takeaway from today's presentation?
Few ones that I wrote down and trying to think it out, but about the remote operations, for example, it was a coincidence. I would say that it was planned, but Luteka didn't plan the COVID. But when the COVID started, we had like massive amount of data from a certain project in Germany, and when they stopped at the yard, everybody had to basically stop on the actual shipyard, and in Finland also prefabrication. But we did it, and that enabled us to suit ourselves to that situation, and we continued for 3 months, and then the yard was open again, and we started again. But everybody had a big issue with the thing that they really had to stop. What if that big organization has to stop working completely? But you tell the people it's not obvious. And we saved a lot of money in terms of traveling, like excessive logistics and so on, based on the remote working, laser scanning, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's quite often that some crises can actually build some new innovations and find new ways of doing things. So they're also
because when we take architects into the virtual world, we think that form follows function there as well as in the physical world. So in virtual world, we have only this, most of this one sense, which is eyesight. So we have to focus on the visual elements of the virtual world and how to use them so that the space is the most the best place to do the functioning designed to.
Yeah, that's really good because visualization is often the one thing that we think about the metaverse, so how is the visualization and all the information is in visual format, so that is a really, really important point. Yeah. Then we heard that Natalia he spoke about the technology enablers in the metaverse, and then we heard also Martin also talking about robotic inspections, a lot of these different technologies and so on. So, but what about Thomas? What do you think about the user experience and the user experience? How they should be considered in these different technical inspections or technical development when the technology is really moving forward? So how can we take the user experience also along with this development?
We talked with Ilkka this morning about they have piloted a lot of these like remote ways of working, and he said the biggest obstacle was actually that people don't want to use those. So that's and why they don't want to use those is because the manufacturers haven't kind of really understood the use cases where they are used. And I don't have much experience on virtual worlds, some AR worlds, but what we have tested a lot is the wearables. And there it's really small things. For example, where the camera is it here or is it here? That means a lot. And is the wide angle like this or is it like this? Really small things, but that makes it useful and non-useful. So really small things. So I would kind of and one thing that we don't know about what's out there, what's possible. Of course, we have, for example, Stereoscope and other companies that can teach us that the kind of the usability is crucial there. So, but it's small things that make up a big thing.
Yeah, I think you made a point because I think if people don't want to use these solutions, so who are we developing things for? So I think it's really, really important that we take these into account already in the early phases of the development.
And for example, we tested, for example, one wearable, and it had lower latency, and lower pixel levels, but it was more user friendly, and we were instantly kind of delighted. So that it's okay to have a lower bitrate. So in paper that was a bad choice, but in real life it was better. So that's why we want to invest in that.
Then earlier today we heard also Stephanie. She was talking about the design aspects and something on metaverse, and also Mario, you are expert in virtual spaces, and so now when we are moving, I think you are an expert there. We are moving more and more towards these virtual worlds and spaces. So how do you see the importance of the quality of the virtual spaces from the user point of view, and what actually is the good quality in virtual spaces?
Yes, I think good quality virtual spaces are, as I said earlier, are the things that make the space useful. And it sorry. We have in this pilot project we have studied the visual elements. There are lights, colors, elements of nature and urban and abstraction level. And simply by using these elements in a wise way, we think that quality improves a lot.
You have had experiences of different hobbies with the virtual spaces. How does it? Have you noticed any, for example, you've already tested that? Do you have it give up?
Well, we have a lot of people
Yeah.
here, so maybe that's for the audience. So
No, I was gonna say to add to the quality of the space, I think it's the user experience. I think a lot of people get nauseated by VR, and I think that's a huge limitation to the overall experience. So with these new headsets where you can, it's more of a filter, and so you can still see the real world that you're in, so your brain knows I'm still in this room, but I'm also seeing a filter of a VR 3D environment. The nauseated feeling doesn't come as much. So, at least for me, I know I was highly sensitive in the VR environment, whereas not with the sort of mesh, the glasses that you're talking about, the ones that VTT are testing now as well. So that's, I think, a huge aspect to the quality of the space.
Actually, we were testing on Friday with fire inspection with those magic leaf glasses. And one thing I noticed with the inspector when he was using those, usually they take them off when they, discuss. But he forgot them on for 10 minutes or 15. I was like, this is a good experience in a way. So I just know that actually they're getting so good that we don't even recognize.
And the price is coming out.
Yeah.
You've got the major players who are looking at coming out with retail versions of them very soon. So I think, again, the technology is going so fast. I think next year this will be a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
We'll all be wearing them.
Just cost, and the quality is quite good.
Yeah, I think that could be a quick, one point is that, virtual spaces are much more than we are. We shouldn't forget that. It's more.
I have an issue on the metaverse, kind of the definition in a way. So I like kind of talk about metaverse technologies, not the metaverse in a way. So that's why, for example, in remote with these headsets, I kind of think about it as one metaverse technology. So,
On the quality, I feel like it's important to know what is the aim of the space. Is it to be hyper-realistic, for example, for the inspections, where you need to have every single detail in clear view, or is the aim to make the user feel homey and be in a more comfortable situation, or in a more comfortable room, maybe scale down the sharpness and hyper-realism and add the blur to make the space a bit more visually less stimulating.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that not every time the hyper-realistic environment is what we aim for, but it really depends on the case. That's a really good point. Then if we go, okay, Peter.
Yeah, I have thinking that we somehow try to kind of look at this kind of tipping point where something is kind of becoming good enough. Many of us remember when old times we used those mobile phones with Symbian, and everybody knew that nobody is going to put any application in your phone because it's so complicated. And then those magic phones came, and surprisingly overnight, it became kind of way of using. There's an app for that. And I'm a little bit curious, how do you see that here in these metaverse applications or use cases? What are the tipping points that you are kind of looking at? When the things kind of got so easy to use, convenient to use, or whatever, that kind of it starts growing without any effort, because work to recommendation by me.
I can only say from inspection side is that it needs to just be really easy, solve one problem. It doesn't have to include everything. For example, it can be so that you use like TeamViewer software or something like that to collaborate. And then you can add things to it. So next you have like with the new headset you get the mesh or a point cloud, so it kind of grows on that.
Talking about one with service poly that is making it really good.
Yeah, you just kind of we invest at the moment with the headset with the cam. That's okay. That's for us at the moment. Then the next phase will be so that we have designs there and whatever, but we're kind of sometimes trying to get too much.
Yes.
Yeah, so starting from scratch. So the first
those times, those latest Nokia phones, they were much more advanced.
Yeah.
But it was different concept.
Yeah, okay, so if we go to some of the applications that we have also heard today, so one of the applications we heard today was these training and inspections, and we heard some examples from Tuomas and also from Jorma, the possibilities of using the different metaverse solutions in these kinds of applications. So what about Aurora? Could you please elaborate a little bit about what you think are the user experience considerations in these kinds of applications like training or inspection?
This ties for the previous point. Since the VR and metaverse environments are still quite new, I feel like the your user experience should take that into or acknowledge that for the people who are new to the environment, but also have the option. Like I have had the VR glasses for a couple of years now, and getting a bit annoyed that there's always instructions on how to use. I already know how to use this. Can I please skip this? No, you can't. Taking into consideration all the different levels of the people who use these technologies, and but also make the first when people are first time experiencing them, make it as comfortable and as understandable as possible, because I see many times there's so many visual elements, it's too much. Plus then there are like huge text boxes that you need to read, and I don't find that optimal, because you have the voice, you have different ways to communicate information in the VR environment, so you should take that into the consideration when giving out information for the user, not just text, but also through listening and interacting.
So today we have heard some examples and technologies mostly from shipbuilding industry, but also examples from other areas where you can use these technologies. And I would like to ask from Alexi, so what do you see, how do you see the potential of these different technologies and ways of working also in other industrial contexts? So is there potential in several industrial areas, or because I think that's what all the companies that are looking for, that how could we really scale the solutions to make them really so that people get used to it and companies are getting more familiar with it. So do you have examples where we could use these or something? Give us some examples.
It's a long question.
Sorry.
Can I have a semi-long answer? You can cut me down. Well, usually I'm the kind of the boring guy, because we work very close to the actual engineering and prefabrication. And if you talk about Necoverse, so it's pretty close to the cruise ships and focus on that, which is not wrong. We've been working, for example, with Juha and taking point clouds out of ships and so on. But it's totally feasible in every prefabrication environment. If I talk about us, kind of, it doesn't matter if you have big or small assemblies or structures or whatever. Within Necoverse, we have been working with ship steel, finished environments or areas, and then also with kind of this thing called digitalization of operating vessels, which is not basically done yet, but we're trying to do it in a certain scale, not like complete vessel, because it would be like mind-blowing. And then the big agenda is like it's called physical workshop recreated virtually, which is like a metaverse of workshop, but it's not. It's a part of this metaverse thing or Necoverse thing or whatever we call it, and that should be like good. It's not defined, it's not created yet, but it's it's a metaverse of prefabrication and what is possible, what is not, because we often get that question from the designers that is this And I get excited also. If somebody says, this is impossible, let's do it.
Yeah, like your attitude. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. No, you don't want to hear it. But, and that metaverse combined with the actual bigger entity. So I think it would enable some kind of collaboration with the owner, with the designers and so on. They could actually see, not clearly like I'm not being idealistic about it. It's not a fairy tale, but you could actually see some parts of the prefabrication, what is possible and what is not. So then again, forget about shipbuilding, which is totally okay. So it's just totally usable regardless of the field. You know, construction, offshore, whatever projects, large entities, you know, whatever. No limits.
Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah. Because this collaboration with Alex, us developers who try to build those solutions, we don't know what, for example, we have had really nice discussions, like we did this and Alex takes it and says like, okay, this is nice, but nothing that I would use because I don't need that we dig different. Well, we are still far, but Alex was, but that's an issue there, that those who develop don't know the user that well. So this project, like Necoverse, is really nice that we can get so close and we have really time, not money involved, but time involved. And that's nice.
And really the collaboration and cooperation between different stakeholders is really important in all places. And I really like Stephanie's point in your presentation when you said now people really have both expectations about when they now know what the AI can do, what kind of environment you can quite easily create. So they have really like bolder expectations nowadays. I think it must be there to support them. Yeah.
We thought it would take business away from us, but in actual fact it's just added scope. It's added more demand.
Yeah.
And people are thinking bigger and bolder, and that's why innovation is so important. And positive attitudes and can-do attitude are even more important.
Okay, so maybe we could end this final discussion, think a little bit more of the future thing that we already started, that when the technologies are really going forward and user experience becomes more and more important. So when looking at ahead like 5 to 10 years, we already touched that point a little bit, but what do you see? What's coming? What's next? Where will you focus on your work? What do you think? What will be the next thing?
I feel like well, at least in my opinion, even though the focus at the moment is very much on the visual aspect, I would like to note the data residency and especially when the material or the data that is being created by using and being in Metaverse, where is that taken into and how is that handled, who is handling it, and in what way, what kind of uses there can be of it, but also where do we give out this information. I feel like that's a major point that should be in the loop as well at the moment, but yeah, especially thinking of bringing language tools, summarization, translation. These need to be processed, and so who is processing it and who is the data given out, especially inspections and these kind of highly sensitive information that is being discussed.
Would you like to have some quote? Yes, I do.
Well, I think all the imagination is the limit here, and I do hope that we finally get over these boundaries of physical world. We don't have to create virtual world that has doors or ceilings
we're searching now is the scalable kind of solution, how we can do that. So with the wearables and with the things and all that, so everything's important. But for this Necoverse, we want to kind of trial and error. What's the first solution there? That's going to happen in a few years, I would say.
Okay, so maybe that's the good way to end this panel. Also remember to think about, we have to just imagine and be bold and also think about business models and really new ways of creating new business and for all of us. So I would really like to thank all the panelists for your really valuable insights and for your discussion today, and I think we can continue the discussion after this seminar as well. So thank you, everybody.
You gave the top to